Uh, Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lord Meher. It's a Thursday night in Mumbai, and I welcome you all online and those who would be joining us later for the recording. Thank you for joining us. Please start, Eva. Thank you.
Page 2214. Ajmer is 560 miles from Dehradun, and the group halted first at Ghaziabad for 2 hours to have their lunch. They spent the first night at Kurja and the next at a dak bungalow in Bharatpur. Baba contacted a must at Kurja and 3 in Bharatpur before arriving in Ajmer in the early afternoon of the 17th. The rented bungalow that Baba and the women occupied was called Perfiza Mahal, palace full of grace. It was nicely furnished and situated on a hill above Anna Sagar Lake with a commanding view. Quarters for the men were much less comfortable. A British woman named Irene Conybeare Harvey, 51, had been interested in mysticism and religion since childhood. In the spring of 1940, she met Will Beckett in London and through him learned of the master. Could Meher Baba really be the Messiah, Lord of the Second Advent? This highly educated daughter of a famous Oxford professor mused to herself. It seems incredible. Yet, over the next few months, Irene became convinced of Meher Baba's godhood and of his personal guidance in her life. She had the overwhelming desire to meet him in person, and difficult as it was to travel in wartime, she managed to book passage to India in the spring of 1941. And footnote.
Conybeare may have written to Baba, but not sought his permission to come to India. Will Beckett may have informed Baba that Conybeare was on her way because Baba cabled her not to come. She did not receive his telegram, however, as she had already sailed for India.
Landing in India, Irene learned from Adi Sr. that Baba was staying in Dehradun, and she traveled there by train, arriving on 29 April. Baba had been informed and sent Narina and Elizabeth to meet her. They took her to a hotel where they told her, Baba is in seclusion and will not see you for the present, but he wishes to know if you would be willing to go to America. All your expenses will be paid. But Baba has not even seen me, Conybeare protested. He doesn't know me, she said, somewhat bewildered at the strange turn of events. Baba does not have to see you to know you, Narina reminded her. Irene then stayed in Dehradun for some time, finally agreeing to go as Baba wished and got her travel papers in order. Keki Nalavala would visit Irene and talk to her of Baba, although Keki himself had not yet met Baba either. And Irene became more and more anxious for his darshan. Finally, Baba called her to Ajmer. She once recounted her first meeting. On being shown into a small room, bare of all furniture except for 2 chairs, I saw Baba, who was seated on one. I had the curious sense of having arrived at the end of my destination, my quest for truth, and felt that I was in the presence of a great spiritual being. It was an indefinable sensation. I knew I was in the presence of no ordinary man. Baba spelled on the board, I am happy to see you. Your spiritual connection with me stretches back for lifetimes. Soon you will not only know, but be convinced. There is no need to tell me anything. I know you very well. I want you to go to America with Norina, Elizabeth, and Nadine. Follow Norina's advice on spiritual matters. In other affairs, you may use your own judgment. After her brief 5-minute interview, Irene Coney-Bear returned to Dehradun and prepared to depart under Baba's orders. After she had left, Baba remarked, she will do beautiful work for me in America. Immediately on his arrival in Ajmer, Baba had absorbed himself in must work with double the energy. He would send Kaka every day to find musts. However, on 22 May 1941, Kaka was sent back to Bombay with certain instructions for Chanji, who was to make arrangements for the 3 Western women who were leaving. After Kaka left, Baba would go must hunting each day with Baidul. Krishna, who had to bring bucket after bucket of water to Baba for Chati Baba's bath, was not always as early as Baba wanted. He sometimes overslept because he had to keep night watch until early in the morning. Once in Ajmer, when he was a few minutes late again, Baba got annoyed and directed him to go back to his home. Krishna was fed up with Baba's scolding and agreed. Before leaving, he went to Chati Baba. Without telling the must what had just transpired between himself and Baba, Chati Baba again asked him, where do you want to go? Wherever you go, he is there. Krishna stayed. In mid-May 1941, Baba sent instructions to Adi Senior in Bangalore to deliver a message to Upasni Maharaj at Sakuri concerning a possible meeting between Baba and Maharaj. It had been a long time since Adi had met the perfect master, and Adi wept when he saw him. Maharaj told him, suffering with the master brings spiritual fruit, while suffering in the world is just suffering and bears no fruit worth having. Maharaj also commented, now I am like a husk, empty and lifeless. I have given all my spiritual charge to Baba. As instructed, Norina, Elizabeth, and Nadine left Ajmer on Tuesday, 27 May 1941, to do the master's work of finding property for establishing a center in America. And footnote.
Another reason for their departure was that at the time there were residency requirements for naturalized U.S. citizens, such as Narina and Nadine, whereby their citizenship could be terminated by being out of the country for more than 5 years.
Elizabeth took the dogs, Kippy and Foundy, with her. They proceeded to Bombay, arriving on the morning of the 29th, where they were met by Kaka and Shanchi. Irene Coney-Bear joined them at the Regent Hotel. Due to wartime restrictions, their American ship was delayed, and they did not set sail until 11 June, Having spent 2 weeks waiting in Bombay, Narina wrote to Baba, "We finally leave today to the hemisphere where you need us to be. I put my head and heart at your feet and go wherever you send me with your feet in my hands. I love you, love you, love you, love." Age observed, Narina, Elizabeth, and Nadine took Baba with their tears. This separation was truly unbearable for them. But to keep the beloved's pleasure, the pangs they felt deeply piercing their heart were not of pain, but of a hidden joy. This life of love is always full of pain. And although at times it is severe, without it, there is no happiness in life. The lover suffers from this affliction, but he comes to love the suffering as an inseparable part of his being. Norina was emotional, colorful, Italian, and Irene Conybeare was a reserved British intellectual, as opposite personalities as one could imagine. Norina, who was always gushing about Baba, was disappointed with Irene's nonchalant and seemingly unenthusiastic manner over her meeting with Baba. Norina was constantly asking her, "Don't you feel transformed, child? Didn't you feel any glowing illumination flowing into you from the master?" And Irene would look glum and reply, "No, I did not feel that." Before leaving Bombay, Irene wrote an exasperated note to Baba, requesting, "Please give me a speck of illumination to keep Narina quiet." Some days later, standing on the deck of the ship, looking out at the sea, she got her speck of illumination as her eyes filled with inner radiance, as she described it. And she knew, as Baba said she would, and was convinced of its source. Erich, who was in Bangalore with his family, wrote a letter to Baidu inquiring about Baba's health after the month-long fast in April. When Baba was in a good mood in Ajmer on 27 May, he himself replied to Erich's letter in the form of a humorous poem in Gujarati.
Mona, will you stop the record for right now for a minute?
Oh, shall I continue?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. We are good. You are good. The whole world is good. Kaka is Kanya, grain seller. Mama is Marwari, businessman. And Savak, Kotwal, government officer. Erich is Patan. Pendu is Pistu, pistachio, and footnote. A Patan is a hefty, muscular man from Baluchistan, often a soldier. Babajan had such men as her bodyguards. And a footnote. And Masaji is considered a Mughal. The rest of the lot are all rice, dal, and dahunya, coriander. From 26 May 1941, Baba began fasting again and subsisted only on fruits, orange juice, and water, with no curtailment in his must work of Baidul. 6 days later, on 1 June, he remained on only water. And at 1 minute past midnight, broke his fast with a cup of tomato juice. Later on that day, the 2nd, he ate a little rice and dal. On 3 June, Piroja left Ajmer with Meru, Nagu, and the Kotwal girls, who had been spending a few weeks of their summer holidays in Ajmer with Baba and the women. Savak Kotwal accompanied them. He was sent to Meherabad for a day and returned to Ajmer on the 7th. Swamiji had been staying in Bangalore, but became ill after a lecture tour of South India. He died at his cousin Sampat Iyengar's home in Madras on 4 June. Swamiji had been observing silence for many months, according to Baba's orders, but before taking his last breath, he uttered Baba 3 times. Baba was informed and sent this cable. Nobody need feel sad, but rather glad, because Ramajan Swamiji has come to me. With Baidul and Savak, Baba left Ajmer on Sunday, 8 June, 1941, to contact Musts. Baba had ordered a taxi, but it failed to arrive on time. After waiting half an hour, he walked the distance from the bungalow to the taxi stand and took another. As he got in, Baba covered his face to avoid being recognized. They traveled by taxi, train, and bus for more than 500 miles, but did not rest for even half an hour during the entire 78-hour trip. Baba contacted 3 musts in Nasirabad, but there is no account of them. In Beawar, Baba contacted an old Mastani and then a young naked must called Nairan Baba, who constantly repeated the name of God, Narain, Narain. The most significant must Baba contacted was the 6-planed saint Nehru Baba in Sojat. A revered man of 80, he lived naked on the veranda of a chosen house, surrounded by 10 or more dogs. The saint was a must from birth, and such types of advanced souls are called Madar Zad. In the town of Abu Road, Baba contacted Khuda Baksh, an old must of 75, who had for 40 years sat unmoved, like a living statue, in a Mohammedan shrine, and during all 40 years did not speak to any living person. When Baba contacted him, however, he was moving and speaking and wandering about the town in his ragged attire. Baba had some must contact in Unawa also, but there is no account of his work there. They returned to Ajmer on the 11th without ever having unpacked the bulky bedrolls which they had taken. They had gone unshaven and had taken no bath during the continuous round-the-clock must hunt. And another reader?
Go ahead, Rosalie.
Ramju came to see Baba in Ajmer on Friday, 13th June, 1941. Baba sent him back to Nasik after 2 days. There had been a letter from Ghani in Bangalore, also detailing his difficulties there. Baba responded through Vishnu on the 14th. You always picture yourself as the downtrodden, unfavorite, forlorn, and forgotten lover of Baba. But the real state of affairs is quite the opposite. Baba knows, the world knows, at least the Mandalese world knows, that you are Baba's favorite disciple, his childhood friend, and his lifelong companion. Your wit and humor touch his sense of humor as no one else's. You are to him what Chico, the jester, was to King Louis Henry of France. Chicot not only made the king laugh and forget his worries, but also fought his greatest fights for the king. Are you not fighting for Baba's cause through this journal? I have another request, Eva, if you could do this. I want a picture of that.
Yes.
Baba sends his love in the hope that you prove worthy of it by lifting up your face to the sky and saying, I am Baba's man. I am Baba's friend. I must never ask. I must always lend. I must always rise. I must never bend. I must never call. I must always send. Baba left on another must trip on 14th June. This time he went with Gustaji, Baidul, and Savak. They went to Rewari by train and contacted a young seeker called Patan. Always also in Rewari, Baba communed with a very high must of the sixth plane called Wali Baba. This Jamali saint lived in the head railway ticket collector's house near the train station, and Baba bought him a new mattress. From there, Baba proceeded to Kertal by train, and from that town to the village of Ismailpur by bullock cart. It was dark by then, and the dirt road was bumpy and full of mud due to rain, which was still falling. Baba worked with the saint Gathale Baba in Ismailpur, with whom he had worked the previous January, and returned to Kertai in the heavy downpour. All got drenched and their bedrolls were soaked. The bullock cart was going very slowly on account of the mud, and at places they had to get down and push it, and then somehow clean their feet before retaking their seats. It was the middle of the night by the time they returned to Kertal. All their belongings were wringing wet, and they had no change of clothes. In that condition, they traveled by train to Naimuch, where Baba contacted three musts. One was Kabristanwala, whose abode was in a cemetery. Another was Ruiwala, who wandered all over the town with no apparent purpose. A good must there was Samshanwala Sadhu, a thin old man who lived in a room among the cremation grounds and repeated the names of God day and night. Baba left Nimuch for Chittorgarh, where he also worked with a good must called Paniwala. Or is it
Right, that's right.
Paniwala, who sat in a street offering water, pani, to those passing by. They returned to Ajmer on the morning of 17th June. It was observed that Baba's hectic travels in 1941 seemed to quicken world events also. 5 days after Baba returned, Germany's army invaded Russia and headed toward Moscow. Pendu came to see Baba in Ajmer on the 25th to discuss finances with him because he was in charge of Meherabad and was distributing money to individual mandali for their clothing allowance and other expenditures. Pendu returned to Meherabad on 30th June. During this time, while conversing with the women, Baba once remarked to them, "Die your death and live my life." On Wednesday, 3rd July 1941, Baba again left Ajmer with Baidul, Gustaji, and Savak for must work in Baroda and Ahmedabad, where he communed with a highly advanced must called Abba Jan. The must smoked a clay pipe and handed it round to whomever sat with him. Baba then contacted Badshah Bapu, a very good must, whom he called Tin Pot Baba, because he sat by the side of a street with a tin pot in front of him. Also in Ahmedabad, Baba contacted Habsi Badshah, a good must who was cared for by some householders. Due to heavy monsoon rains, traffic was at a complete standstill between Bombay and Surat. Baba returned to Ajmer after 4 days on the 7th, but left again 2 days later to continue his must work in Ismailpur, Rawari, Delhi, and Aligarh. He returned to Ajmer on 12 July. Baba sent Kaka to Baroda, Savak to Dehradun, Delhi, Lahore, and Agra, and Pendu to Indore in search of bungalows required for his future 6-month absolute seclusion. Close lovers at each place were informed to assist them. No suitable place was found. However, so it was decided instead to return to Meherabad. Tukaram, the driver, was ordered to take the blue bus and their baggage there, and Nilu went with him. From Ajmer, Baba informed the Mandali at Meherabad and Bangalore and his close lovers that he would be staying in strict seclusion for 2.5 months in the Must Ashram on Meherabad Hill, and then for 4 months at some other place. He also informed them by circular, "I will not be seen by anyone for the period of 6 months. No correspondence of any kind will be allowed except only in cases of utmost emergency by telegram. The last 3 months of my seclusion will be stricter than ever. in the sense that besides not being seen, I shall not even hear a human voice. According to Baba's strict directives, Mera was never allowed to be alone. Either Mani, Khorshid, or Carmen Masi was to be with her. If Mera went to wash her face, if she went to eat, or out of the room, or on some errand or chore, another woman would accompany her, even when she went to the bathroom. One of these three had to stand outside on guard. The difficulties of traveling through crowded railway terminals and on buses while following all Baba's instructions can well be imagined. Only Mera could put up with such a life. And this is why she is the beloved of the beloved. Her only thought was of pleasing Baba. During this time, Mera and Khorshid would cook Baba's food, and Naja and Katie would cook for the women's group. Mansari was kept occupied translating articles from Meher Baba journal into Gujarati. Footnote. These Gujarati translations by Mansari of Baba's discourses, however, were never published. Wow. Mani attended to written work and correspondence, along with Kitty, who was teaching her shorthand and typing. Before leaving Ajmer on 14th July 1941, Chati Baba suddenly lost his temper. He began knocking things about with a broom and creating a lot of noise. He continued causing a ruckus for 3 solid hours, but he became quiet and laughed when Baba came and sat with him. Baba, with the Mandali and women, left Ajmer by train on the 16th at 9:45 a.m. for Manmad, where Chanji met Baba briefly the next day at 2:45 p.m. From Manmad, Baba sent word that his lovers were not to see him when he arrived. So those who were waiting at the Ahmednagar railway station left disappointed. But this sort of disappointment is quite different. Inwardly, it is a sweet hope which, though creating pain, concentrates the mind on the beloved. Baba arrived in Ahmednagar at midnight and remained in his train compartment for 4 hours until 4 a.m. on 18th July. Only Sarosh had permission to see him, to receive instructions related to the next phase of Baba's work. After meeting with Sarosh before dawn, Baba left the train station with the group, headed to Mehrabad in buses and a car. Baba had already announced that he would be going into strict seclusion for 6 months, from the 1st of August, 1941, and Pendu and the Mandali had been busy making the arrangements. Pendu and Kale Mama had been ordered to erect 4 cabins on the 4 corners of Mehrabad Hill for 4 night watchmen, who would either be from the Mandali or hired villages. Their job would be to prevent anyone from entering the limits of the property, and also to prevent the slightest disturbance to Baba. When Baba returned to Meherabad, Pankraj, a young man from Nagpur, was waiting for him. Although he knew darshan was not possible during Baba's seclusion, Pankraj had come to Meherabad and stayed on, hoping Baba would see him. He had been very moved by Narina's speeches in Nagpur and had eagerly come to meet the master in person.
Okay, thank you, Rosalie. I'm going to take over here. After Baba arrived, Pankraj sent a message to him through Pendu, Vishnu, and Kaikubai. Baba sent back word for Pankraj to return to Nagpur at once, assuring him that Baba's Nazar was on him. Deeply disappointed, the young man sat under a tree and began weeping. He wept for 4 hours. At last, Baba sent him instructions to go to Narayan Maharaj at Kedgaon. Hearing this, Pankraj explained, I now believe in Meher Baba's omniscience and know why he has sent me this message. The fact was that just as there had been hostile opposition against Meher Baba and Upavzi Maharaj, there was also much propaganda against Narayan Maharaj in the press, and Pankraj had once been led astray by all the false publicity. Footnote. Narayan Maharaj actually had to go to court to face a lawsuit at this time. A devotee had given him a large sum of money, but for some reason the man turned against Narayan, and demanded the money back. Narayan would not give the man the money. Therefore, the man filed a lawsuit and tried to sue Narayan for the money. The man eventually lost the case in court. On one occasion, when Narayan Maharaj had gone to Nagpur and was giving darshan to his devotees, Pankraj stood outside and actually spoke against him. But when he read about Narayan Maharaj in Charles Purdam's book, The Perfect Master, he repented for his folly. Thus, Baba's message affected Pankraj deeply, and again he began shedding tears. After some time, Baba sent for Pankraj through Vishnu and allowed him darshan from 50 yards away. Baba indicated to him, I am pleased with you. You may now return. Pankraj left, walking backwards without turning from Baba, and when he had gone some distance, Baba sent Vishnu to talk with him. Baba again called him and said, whatever you are now doing, studying or a job, go on doing. I will call you after a year to stay with me. Pankraj left, firmly establishing Baba in his heart for all time, and continued to see him whenever the opportunity arose. During this period, Narayan Maharaj came to a suburb of Bombay. He gave darshan to his devotees there. Naraman, Arnavaz, Nargis, Rhoda, and Bakamai Dadachanji decided to pay their respects to the Sadguru and went to see him. Inside, they were taken before Narayan Maharaj, who was dressed very simply in a white kafni, pajamas, and a sleeveless vest, and was seated on a chair, surrounded by a group of devotees. Narayan spoke to them in Gujarati, asking where they had come from and various other questions. After some minutes of conversation, Arnavaz wanted to see Narayan Maharaj's reaction to or comments about Meher Baba. She broached the topic. You know, Narayan, my paternal uncle, Chanji, is staying with Meher Baba. Oh, is that so? He remarked. He has been staying with him for the last 20 years in his ashram. Where is his ashram? Like he didn't know. Ahmednagar. After some moments, Narayan said, they say he does not speak. Yes, that's right, Arnavaz answered. Why not? You should know, Maharaj. After some moments, Narayan said, you talking to Meher Baba's devotees, should make him speak. Why don't you make him speak? Arnavaz did not know what to say to this, so she kept quiet. Narayan then said, make him speak with the intensity of your love. Scroll. Picture of Narayan. No. At Meherabad, before entering into seclusion, Baba called a meeting of the Mandali on 20 and 21 July 1941. Joining them were Ramju from Nasik, Ghani, Adi Sr., Erich, and Don from Bangalore, where Don had been posted. Jalbai, Adi Jr., Behram, and Sadashiv Patil from Pune, along with Chanji and other close ones from Bombay, Pune, and Ahmednagar, such as Sarosh. Baba personally met with each man and instructed each about his work in individual affairs. Baba explained to me the reason for calling the meeting. I might die during the next 6 months of seclusion. So, by calling you now, I am giving you all this last chance of seeing me. If I die, all of you will die soon too, as there would be no point in your living then. If, however, I do not die, I will speak and manifest, and you should pass your examination, quote unquote, meaning carry out the orders he had given. My poor health has already begun. Yesterday, I had a terrible heart pain. It was so bad that I couldn't move for half an hour or so. All the women were very frightened. Each of the men had the same thought. What would people's reaction be if Baba's seclusion lasted 6 more months? Baba had declared that he would break his silence on August 1st. Now, what ideas would people have by this extension? But no one said anything about it to Baba, and after the personal interviews and instructions on the 20th, Baba called together the following day and gave an explanation on God and Maya, which answered their question. Some, however, did mention to Baba that by extending the period of his silence and seclusion, his opponents would have an excuse to stir up all sorts of false publicity about him. To this, Baba replied, in northern India, there is a must who stays at an important railway station. He behaves in a manner that society would view as shocking. Thousands of people daily pass by him, witnessing his disgusting habits, but say nothing. Neither do the police interfere with him. Similar actions by an ordinary sane man would be liable not only to persecution, but severe punishment by the law. In the case of this must, no one takes him seriously and nobody cares about him. Why? Simply because they all take him to be stark, raving mad, and consequently not responsible for his conduct. Similarly, I take all who are not realized as mad and pay no attention to what they do or say about me or my work, favorably or otherwise. Even in the case of the worst of scandals or the foulest of abuses, I know that they are irresponsible, instigated as they are by interested parties whose business it is to create mischief. If you correct them and point out their mistakes, you may do so, if occasion demands, with dignity, affection, and grace. Further explaining about illusion and reality and the difference between an ordinary man and the God-man, Baba stated, in the universe, there is reality on one side and illusion on the other. Reality is infinite, hence illusion, which is the shadow of reality, is also infinite. This illusion, in its manifest aspects and innumerable forms, life, light, love, power, etc., is infinite. But these aspects or forms of illusion are so finite that they become negligible, which would otherwise be termed a zero. In short, the one in many is infinite, as also many in one. In other words, lives innumerable, problems, interests, and passions, and all their variegated aspects and forms are infinite. Behind the God-man is infinity because he is one with it. But at the back of an ordinary individual is mind and the ego and its manifest aspects. The actions of both the God-man, infinite, and the man, finite, appear externally similar because the infinite has come down to the level of the finite. Yet, in spite of this apparent similarity, internally and in reality, there is a world of difference. At the back of my actions is infinity, which has no bindings and hence no impressions, because I am beyond mind and ego. Whereas at the back of an average man's actions are mind and ego, which have bindings and create impressions. Where am I? Are we at the top of the next page?
Yes, we are. Page 2224.
Okay, well, why don't I give Mona a chance to read a little? Go ahead, Mona. She's still here? Well, if she doesn't pick it up in a moment, I'll continue. Suppose a man slaps someone. He does so out of anger because of his mind and ego. His action reacts and creates bad impressions on the person slapped and makes him angry too. But a slap from the God-man does not create any sanskaras because he is beyond them. On the contrary, this action done by such an infinite power or someone who is finite has a very definite purpose behind it. On someone who is finite has a very definite purpose behind it. This action wipes out the impressions of the person slapped so that he is greatly benefited spiritually. Baba then humorously remarked, "You have all come to me with cartloads of illusory sanskaras and are sitting on my chest with all your problems. Neither can you free yourselves from me, nor can I free myself from you. Your burdens are on my head and also those of the universe. But don't worry, from February 1942 onward, I will start speaking to myself and afterwards to the public. Be ready to hear me speak." On the evening of Monday, 21 July 1941, Baba sent everyone back to their homes and prepared to enter seclusion. Vishnu was sent to Bombay for a week and returned to Meherabad on the 27th. Chanji also returned and saw Baba briefly on the 28th morning before returning to Bombay. On the 25th, Paroja was permitted to rejoin the women's group and stayed for 2 months. Before entering seclusion, Baba instructed Padre to cut a small piece of bamboo from the partition in the cage room, built originally for the Must Karim Baba, so that Baba could communicate on the alphabet board without being seen. His seclusion this time was to be much stricter than before. Baba entered seclusion in the cage room on Meherabad Hill on Friday, 1 August 1941, exactly a year to the day since his previous seclusion. Despite his seclusion, Baba continued working energetically with Chati Baba, the only must in Meherabad, but saw no one else. Footnote: Muhammad Must had been staying in Bombay for 9 months in the care of Ali Akbar Shapurzaman, who is a Loba, Alaba. And there he is. That's the cage room. It was absolutely still. Pendu, Padre, Kalamama, Masaji, Shagan, Vishnu, and Baidul, while on watch, were most cautious and saw to it Baba was not in the least disturbed. They prevented the dogs from barking and shooed away any birds that happened to be chirping nearby. The women Mandali on Mehrabad Hill would also tread lightly and not let the slightest sound escape their lips. The graveyard silence made the hill seem uninhabited, Age described. But Maya would have nothing of this peace and quietude. It grew irritated and jealous at the faithful observance of Baba's orders by his men and women Mandali, whom it was incapable of effecting. And I think we have a little more time. In its wrath, it brought about disturbances in another way. Tumultuous whirlwinds occurred day and night, and dust blew everywhere. The Mandali had never before witnessed such winds in August. For the watchmen to sit in the tiny cabins on the four corners of Mehrabad Hill became impossible. The tin sheet roof of the Must Ashram rattled and created a nerve-wracking uproar, disturbing Baba terribly. He sent word confirming, Maya is working against me. Baba saw none of the Mandali during this period. Vishnu would go to him every morning for 15 minutes, and using the alphabet board, Baba would give him instructions through the window-like opening of the cage. Vishnu could only see Baba's fingers moving speedily along the board and no other part of his body. But although unseen, in addition, Baba would cover his face with a cloth to completely hide his features. Krishna would come to sweep his room, but Baba would go into another adjoining room when he came. Baba was fasting at the time on a small amount of rice and dal taken once a day. After some days, the fasting, his work, and the howling winds and rattling din of the roof day and night considerably affected his health. When Vishnu went to Baba in the morning for instructions, Baba dictated orders on the board. He would feel so weak he would have to sit and rest every few minutes before continuing. Baba stayed in the cage room like this for a week and then shifted to the tomb on Tuesday, 7 August 1941, where he remained for 5 days doing his universal work. When Baba left the Must Ashram to walk to the tomb, he completely covered his face with a cloth and instructed everyone to clear the area, thus maintaining his seclusion. The inclement weather continued, being disturbed in the tomb also. Baba removed to the nearby tin cabin on the hill 5 days later on 12 August. But here too he was disturbed, more so because Chati Baba brought his things to the cabin the same day and took possession of it. This unusual behavior necessitated Baba's retiring to another room for the night, which he found inconvenient. Before going into seclusion, Baba had indicated that he would move the location of his seclusion away from Mehrabad by mid-October and would relax his seclusion for 15 days to move at that time. But now, because of his weakened health and the harassment of Mayavic forces, Baba decided to shift to Panchgani immediately. Bungalows were hired for the men and women, and separate accommodation was made for Baba to be in seclusion. Maya was shamed. No sooner had Baba announced his new plan than the dust storms subsided. Observing the change of weather, the Mandali requested that Baba continue his seclusion in Mehrabad, but he did not agree and fixed the date of leaving for Panchgani. On 1 September, Baba stepped out of his seclusion to get ready to leave and to see the women. On the morning of Wednesday, 3 September 1941, Baba left Mehrabad for Panchgani at 7 a.m. with the men and women Mandali in Elizabeth's car and the blue bus. No one saw Baba entering the car. As soon as they arrived in Panchgani at 10:45 a.m., Baba went straight into his bungalow without being observed. Chadi Baba was kept in Baba's bungalow, and Baidul and Krishna continued to look after the must. The men and women Mandali, as usual, occupied separate houses. Baidul, Kalamama, Krishna, Nilu, Vishnu, and Venkoba Rao were with Baba in Panchgani. Babananda, Gustaji, and Pleader had been sent to Mahabaleshwar to continue their seclusion under Baba's orders. Adi Jr., Murti, and Padri were in Meherabad, conducting a free medical dispensary, and the rest of the men, Shagan, Pendu, Sailor, Sidhu, and Jangle, had been given other duties. Kaka was in Bombay, but came to Panchgani for a few days at the beginning of September. In Panchgani, Baba continued his inner work with Chadi Baba. On the 5th, the must was found to be in a very ill-tempered mood. The next day, however, he was again his usual genial self, but he told Krishna to tell Baba to send him back to his home in South India. Krishna informed Baba, who remarked, "His time is up. If he asks again, I will send him, but all my plans will have to be changed." When Baba was in seclusion at Meherabad during August 1941, some distorted reports appeared in the press regarding his meetings with Mahatma Gandhi in the early 1930s. Gandhi's English follower, Mirabai, Miraben, was reported to have told the author Ram Lando.
Do you want to stop here? It's noon, or do you want?
We'll just turn to the next page. Let's see if it's
Okay.
really a paragraph or what. I'll just read the top paragraph.
Okay.
I know all the details about the connection between the two men. It was always Sri Meher Baba who went to see Gandhi, never otherwise. Ha! They first met on the Rajputana, and Baba sent round word asking whether Gandhi would receive him. Gandhi, of course, consented. They had a talk, and after that, Sri Meher Baba visited Gandhi again in London. But you may state quite emphatically that Gandhi never asked Meher Baba for help or for spiritual or other advice. He liked Meher Baba, and he talked to him, as he talks to everyone who wants to see him. That was all. And we will end there. And that whole paragraph is incorrect, by the way.
It's incorrect.
Oh, absolutely.
So what is
it was Gandhi that went to Baba's room. Baba didn't go to no Gandhi. Baba didn't go to anybody.
Interesting.
And it was Gandhi who asked Baba to speak. It was Gandhi that Baba let read a few pages from the book. And Gandhi was completely impressed by it. And their correspondence continued for many years.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Oh, okay. We stopped the recording, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we got a little bit of a late start, but we sure read some great stuff today.
Didn't Gandhi also say that Baba should not be doing all this altruistic stuff like giving clothing to the poor? I thought I read that somewhere. I thought he criticized Baba for that. Of course, I could be wrong.
I don't recall that. You know, Baba's, I mean, maybe they talked about it. Baba probably would say something like, my goal is not just to feed or clothe, there's going on here.
Today's reading was really interesting. A lot of really good gems. And I did email those to you, Rosalie.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah, that was.
Get them, and if you don't, I'll send again.
And also I was, because I'm so into that period of the blue bus, it's worth reading his the two articles, you can call them articles, Baba speaking to Narina about Ashmir and meeting those great souls. It's really worth reading, because even when I did a group with wayfarers, very little is said about the activity with the mus, and it's just really precious to hear of these, what
Right.
little said, but through Narina, but it's so beautiful. It's like, wow. And so that's why that I just wanted to have that thing about pain and joy, because I know that's true, but I can only accept it in the mystical language. That sounds funny to say, but I tell you, I don't accept it otherwise. I know you want to hear about it, but when it's in there, because it was in there today, it's like I'm like a dog after a bone. I don't. That's very important, because and also what Eric said about life with Baba was not fun. I believe in fun. I like to have some fun, and but he said, but it was full of joy. I mean, you know, for us, in our daily lives, I think with, the whole, it was like a quickening during the pandemic, because we went more inward, because we were afraid to be outward. We didn't want to get sick and die. My God, we'd have to die, So we all went more inward, even with our mask, like kind of shut up for a while. But anyway, this blue bus time, and then Baba said about that blue bus, and these are Baba's words. This blue bus is the same as the chariot of Krishna. And after my manifestation, people will worship it, not like it or see it or think about it, will worship it. I mean, I'm kind of sorry. It's almost be glad to go back to India, but that blue bus was tiny. It was tiny, 30 people in there. They better be skinny scarecrows. Yeah. I mean, outrageous.
Advantage of every inch.
And that little Jangu peeing out the window and stuff. I mean, it was like, and you got a little glimpse of it, that mud, and their feet were muddy, and they couldn't do anything about it. They had to travel with these mud cake feet. And today in the reading, I thought,
and sopping wet clothes.
It gives that feeling like they're tired, and they're, when you get tired, your worst comes out. It's like, and then they're with Baba, this love flowing being. It's like he says, I give my love continually. It is up to you to receive it. It's like, wow. Wow. Ashmir. I even like the sound Ashmir. It's like he loved Ashmir.
It rolls.
He did all met with all those high souls. And I tell you, Chadi Baba, he was a Jamali. He was a mild mus. But even mild mus, he'd fly off the handle sometimes. But that Kareem, he was scary.
What's the word for the fiery musts?
Jalali. Yeah. Now Muhammad was Jamali.
So Jamali is low key.
Yeah, and I see it has an M in it, so I remember
mild.
And
Jalali is L for lively.
Jalali, yeah, like and Kareem Baba. I don't know. What a little I hear from him, I think, how did they handle this person? Just you know, and the nakedness and the weirdness is really beyond imagination and conception, you know. It's the avatars.